Good evening, friends. It's Friday, and you made it once again. Welcome to PBS Late Night. Later in the program, we're going to talk with singer Patti LaBelle, who can handle everything from rock and roll to opera, with some gospel right there in the middle. Right now, Kwame,
I always hear the name Patti LaBelle, but I don't know what it is.
Of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. That was all in the 60s. He was expelled by SNCC and became a member of the Black Panther Party, and he has some thoughts on that move in his life. He is now living in West Africa and represents the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. It is good to meet you. It's good to have you here.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Do you miss America?
Not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all. I've missed Africa, even when I was in America.
All right. When you come here, what do you see?
Oh, well, I see deterioration, things getting worse, the people becoming more conscious, the necessity for more organization.
How do people react to you? Cordially?
Yes,
no?
Cordially. Yeah. You know, there are always extremes. Those who are against justice react viciously. Those who are for justice act very cordially and supportive.
How long have you been away kind of on like a permanent basis?
Well, I left the United States to live in Africa in 1968, at the end of 1968. So I've been living there since the end of 1968, early 1969.
Rest in peace.
Of course, I come back and forth in my
said he died by
organize the masses.
Natural causes, but I'm not sure.
In those years, 68, like 69 through 83, you see any progress as far as Black Americans?
Of course. There's great progress. You know, life is made up of two aspects, the material and the immaterial aspect of life. And, of course, there's some material gains. There's more visibility, not much more power, more visibility. But the immaterial aspect is what we're more concerned with. Our people are more conscious today than they were yesterday. And this is a necessary element, especially for revolutionary struggle.
Conscious about?
Conscious about their responsibility,
Revolution
conscious
will not
about
be televised.
The backwardness of the capitalist system, conscious about their role to be played in it.
Responsibilities to themselves?
Well, to humanity in the first place, and consequently to themselves, yes.
What is the party that you represent? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The All-African People's Revolutionary Party was founded by Kwame Nkrumah, and he was the first president of Ghana, led the anti-imperialist struggle there.
Also a martyr.
Ghana, and was later co-president of the People's Revolutionary Republic of Guinea, where I now live. The party seeks to organize Africans all over the world and to make their primary objective Pan-Africanism, which is the total liberation and unification of Africa under scientific socialism. The old slogan, which we've heard time and time again, is true: until Africa is free, no African anywhere will ever be free. Consequently, our task is, especially in the United States of America, to make Africans here responsible to Africa. You know, other ethnic groups in this country are responsible to where they come from. Italians have responsibility to Italy. These conscious Irish, the conscious ones, not the stupid ones who do a jig on St. Patrick's Day while their people are suffering in Ireland, but the conscious one who support the struggle in Ireland against British imperialism. Everyone, Poles are responsible to Polish, but we in America who are Africans, we seem to have nothing to do with Africa at all. As a matter of fact, some of us are ashamed of it because of the backward education we've had.
You call all Black Americans Africans, right?
That's what they are.
Okay. When you say that they are not conscious, not responsible toward, not aware of, and maybe somewhat ashamed, can you elaborate on that, and why do you think that that's so? Do you think some of it's just the geography? The distance?
Not at all. Not at all. It's a response. No, it's not at all. It's a consequence of a backward education. The education that is given, for example, just start with Tarzan on television. It makes it appear as if Africans are stupid and backward, as if they have no understanding even of their own terrain. And a European who comes from Europe knows Africa better than they do. He can speak to the elephants, and they run from the elephants. You start from there, and you see all the portrayal of Africa. Even in the history books in the school, there's no contributions, none of Africa's great contributions. Africa's great contributions just in the area of religion, for example, Judaism began in Africa. Christianity flourished in Africa. And yet you have Africans in this country who are Christians, and they still believe that Jesus Christ was white.
I'm getting the drift of something you're saying, and I'm going to go back to the,
And for people that will refute that last term, there was a book by Dr. Yosef Ben Yokman called,
60s,
I'll show it to you.
The civil rights
Later
movement,
on stream.
that maybe a lot of the things that
Have it in my
Black
possession.
Americans at that time focused on was well deserved and justified progress in a lot of social areas for themselves. But what you're suggesting
Just speaks about the three Abrahamic religions and their how the West tries to portray that it's not of African origin.
is there never has been a time when people are focusing on their roots.
No, not exactly. The largest movement that even in America the Africans ever had was the movement of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, which was in the 1920s. And he had millions of members. He had more members than any other organization we've ever had, more than the NAACP, more than the Nation of Islam today. He's had more. And his slogan was simple: Africa for the Africans, both home and abroad. Of course, in the history books, there's nothing said about the Honorable Marcus Garvey. And when they do mention him, they make him appear as if he was somebody stupid, a fanatic, an escapist. But these are the facts. People understand this. It's just a question of politically educating them. They don't get this education. They hear nothing about Africa at all. And when they do hear something about Africa, it's usually very backward and very stupid.
What happened in your background that caused you as a teenager to really make a decision to dedicate your right to civil rights, your whole life?
Well, it's very difficult. You know, I've been asked that question so many times. The only thing I could say is just seeing the suffering of my people. You know, if you see your people suffer and you understand you have a responsibility, you must do something towards alleviating this suffering. But I think this is a natural responsibility for all men and women. There's no one particular to do this. But I've seen the suffering of my people and understood it's my responsibility to help alleviate the suffering. And still, they're still suffering, then my responsibility is still here.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask the folks at home to jump into our conversation. 313 in Detroit, 872-4040. This would be a rather unique and rare opportunity for you to talk with the gentleman who played a large role in the civil rights movement, Stokely Carmichael, then Kwame Ture, now. He represents the All-African People's Revolutionary Party. You went to school in Washington, D.C., in college, and then you got involved in SNCC. In my reading, there was a dramatic incident that caused you to move away from the nonviolent tactics of Dr. King and move toward a much more militant stand. Can you recall that specific incident? Because, boy, it was...
I remember. I think you're probably speaking about Montgomery, Alabama. But, you know, actually before, because of the work we were doing, we were organizers, and in the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, we had two wings, actually. One wing concentrated on mobilized activity against public-aided segregation, against public segregation. So they had a lot of sit-in movements, and the other wing directed its attention to voter registration campaigns in the Deep South, Mississippi, Alabama, and this is where I worked. Of course, our work was far more dangerous because here you had public demonstrations with people coming, but the work of organizers are quiet, slow, 2 o'clock in the morning, going on plantations, et cetera, et cetera. So for our very protection, we started carrying guns. Of course, it wasn't said publicly that we carried guns, but we carried them. But the situation really came to a head in Montgomery, Alabama. You know, the Selma to Montgomery march was a vicious march. At that time, George Wallace was governor of Alabama, and he turned loose his state troopers, and I mean, they were real Nazis. I mean, they were terrorists. And I went to Montgomery on an assignment for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and was staying at a hotel which we were using. It was a hotel owned by Africans there, which we were using as our headquarters. And the police came along and started locking all the doors, and they locked the doors to the hotels. You know, I couldn't understand why. I was trying to get out. They wouldn't, so I was forced to go upstairs, and I think I went upstairs on about the 4th floor. And when I saw everything clearly, they had the whole posse on horseback, you know, and they had the whole area blocked off, and they had demonstrations squeezed in, and they just rode and trampled them, you know, and just, I mean, they just did whatever they wanted to do to them. And they had the whole area blocked off. The press wasn't there, and I was forced to look at it, just helpless. There was absolutely nothing I could do, absolutely nothing. I mean, there wasn't even a Coke bottle to throw at one of them, you know. And when the rest of the SNCC people came, I was screaming at them. I told them, we don't want to hear this nonviolence. We need to kill some of these people right now. That's the only lesson, you know. So they said I wasn't feeling well, that they should send me out of Montgomery. And they started to take me out to Montgomery, and we went to the airport. When I got to the airport, I saw some of these, you know, state troopers, and tried to, well, of course, just tried to attack them. They restrained me, and I vowed after that that this nonviolent demonstration stuff, forget it. You know, these people don't understand this. You know, it's effective, but its effectiveness has worn off now. It's time to use another tactic and call for some retaliatory action against them.
Do you think that was a course that a lot of people followed Do you think it was a wise course?
Of course, you know, people must fight using all means necessary. Some people get confused between Dr. King's position of only nonviolence and Malcolm X's position, any means necessary. For Malcolm, you can use nonviolence, it's only a tactic. Dr. King erred when he made nonviolence as a tactic a principle. This was his error. It's not a principle, it's a tactic. If it's effective now, fine. If it's not effective, then you use whatever is possible. If you can get your liberation.
And there's a reason why the Western countries, especially the U.S., when it comes to education, and you get to Black history, they only amplify a certain individual, not Malcolm X, the adversary, Martin Luther King. There's a reason why.
By nonviolence, I don't know anybody who will not do it that way. But if you can't get it through nonviolence, then it's stupid to say I'm not going to be free. Obviously, here now, if you have to chuck hand grenades, chuck them, you know.
Do you think that, you said that in an article I read that maybe it was not a smart thing for you. The biggest mistake I think you said I ever made was to get involved in the Black Panthers, true?
No, I don't think it was a mistake. The circumstances of history forced it upon me. I may say that they were a big mistake, but I don't think it was a big mistake. I was forced upon it. Their, of course, lack of necessity of politically educating the people, their clear opportunist leadership, which has demonstrated itself in these recent years, certainly made that a mistake.
How do you mean opportunist?
Well, you know President Sekou Touré, who is the president of the People's Revolutionary Republic of Guinea, where I live, the leader of the African Revolution. He says that no man or woman should voluntarily take a task upon their shoulders, which they say is a task which is necessary for the people's happiness, and then before having completed the task, put it down. If you would look at many of the leadership of the Black Panther Party of the 1960s, they said that they came voluntarily to fight for the liberation of their people. They came to stop police terrorism. Well, they haven't stopped it, yet many of them have put this task down and have started to do other things. Clearly, this is opportunism on their part. If you decide to fight for the people's liberation and you say you're doing it voluntarily, then you must fight to the end.
Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night.
Hi, it's Charlie calling from Toronto. I'm watching from the Buffalo station. And I wanted to ask Kwame Touré, why did he go to Africa? Does he think he'd ever come back to the U.S.? And second question is totally unrelated. What are his viewpoints on what we do about Reaganism and increased militarism, the whole, thrust towards war? And that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we can answer your second question first. The only thing to do is that we must organize the people. The masses of the people are not organized, so their proper will cannot be expressed. We must organize them. Consequently, and of course when we organize them, it means organize them for the overthrow of capitalism, because it is the capitalist system which is the problem. Reagan is not the problem. Reaganism is not the problem. No matter who you get in the president, they must do the same thing. The American capitalist system is set up in that manner. When you say capitalism, you mean war. W-A-R, war. The only way capitalism solves its crisis is through war. That's why America is involved in so many wars. So to put the problem with Reagan is to make an error. After all, he's just an actor. He just reads script. He knows nothing about economy. He doesn't, and he's not expected to know it. But he can read script well. So you shouldn't blame Reagan. It's the capitalist system. And this
43
is an
years ago, and it's the same shit
all
today.
The time. They think that if they
crazy.
change Reagan, things will change. Nothing will change unless we destroy the capitalist system. Consequently, to solve the problems of your second question, it's simply a question of organizing the people and overthrowing the capitalist system. That means, of course, the setting up of socialism, and we must understand it precisely. Your first question. Obviously, it is clear that I'm African. Africa is my home, and I must make contributions here. And this must be my primary occupation. I don't think I will ever come back to America. You know, people said that the Honorable Marcus Garvey had a Back to Africa movement, but he never called it a Back to Africa movement. Those are journalists. We say Marcus Garvey had a Forward to Africa movement, and consequently, when we go forward, we cannot come back.
Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night.
Yeah, this is John. I'm calling from Long Island, New York. I knew Stokely back in PS 83 and Bronx High School of Science. And I wanted to ask him, one, I wanted to tell him that the years have been kinder to him than to me. Also, what does he see down the road for my children, and if he has children, his? I am white. I'd mention my last name if he thinks he'd remember it.
Well, it's good to know from you. That's a long way to go all the way back to PS 83. Well, I see a better world for both your children and for my children, a much better world. We make progress. It's slow, but we make progress. And once humanity has made progress, they cannot be forced backwards. So I see, of course, constant progress. Better
And I do hope that is true.
We'll take a shot. What's your last name?
Ashby.
Ashby.
John Ashby.
John Ashby.
You went to science also, huh?
No, I went to Mount St. Michael at that time, but if you remember the student council election, 7th grade.
All right. Was he active back then, too?
Yes.
No, we were both young at the time, you know.
I was vice president of student council in the 8th grade and was an all-Italian school just about.
Yes, if you remember, I helped get you elected. I was your manager.
Is that right?
Yes, I was.
Oh, I hear you.
John Ashby. Okay, terrific to have you call
You know what
in.
my slogan was?
What was the slogan?
Vote for Stokey.
Okie dokie, vote for Stokely.
Is that right?
That's right. And he got it.
That's
Terrific.
crazy.
Good to have you call. Thank you.
Thank you.
What
It's good to
the
hear from you.
fuck?
Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night.
Yes, this is Angie from Inkster. I'd like to ask a question. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked of getting at least 5 states in the South for black people to separate themselves from Caucasians. I was wondering if you could address that and the move that he said back to Africa. I'm specifically speaking of the problems that some blacks have in terms of getting employment. Well, many blacks have in terms of getting employment. And one of the ways that maybe could be alleviated, that they could spend some time in Africa using some of the skills that they may have.
Well, I don't want you to assume that we can go to Africa and find jobs easily there or that life is going to be better. Not at all. Life is more difficult there than here. Obviously, Africa has been raped by all the imperialist powers in Europe, by France, by Britain, by Germany, by Italy, by Portugal, etc., etc. Her labor and her wealth has been stolen by America, so consequently, her position economically is not a very strong one at this time. Consequently, those of us who look towards going to Africa must understand that we're going to sacrifice. We're going to make sacrifices, and unless we're prepared to make those sacrifices, we will make a big mistake. I'm not quite sure, however, I understand precisely your first question. I'm not quite sure the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has ever precisely stated 5 states in the South. No. I have heard him say that we need a land of our own. We must get some land. But he's never precisely stated it to be the 5 states in the South. I may be incorrect, but I don't think so. Other groups have. The Communist Party, USA, of course, came out with this theory in the 1930s called the Black Belt Theory. And today, the Republic of New Africa also upholds it, and other groups. But I don't think the Honorable Elijah Muhammad ever specifically said that. He did always say he was very strong on land and the need for land, and that Allah would provide us with some land. But I'm not sure he ever specified the 5 states in the South. Of course, our party, the All-African People's Revolutionary Party, recognizing that Africa is our home, could not give up Africa for anything less than that.
Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night.
Yes, I have a twofold question. One, I'd like him to elaborate on the statement he made earlier about Jesus not being white. And secondly, I saw Eldridge Cleaver at NYU. He spoke for an hour and a half, and generally what he said was he denounced communism. I'm wondering if he thinks Eldridge Cleaver sold out to get back into this country.
Okay, who are we talking with?
I'm Stuart from New York City.
Okay, Stuart.
Your first question. If you would read the Bible, Stuart, you would see that the very first country mentioned in the Bible is Ethiopia, Genesis 2, verse 13. Depending upon the version of the Bible you have, this Ethiopia might be spelled Cush, C-U-S-H, or Cush, K-U-S-H. If you will look quickly at an authoritative source, you will see Cush, whether it's C or a K, is the ancient name for Ethiopia. If you will read properly the Bible, Europe is not mentioned in the Bible until the very end. If you know the slightest thing about the life of Jesus Christ, you will know that when Jesus Christ was in trouble, it was to Africa his mother took him. It was there that she hid him. For 10 years, he grew there physically, spiritually, and morally. If you would look properly at the life of Jesus Christ, you will see that he never saw Europe. He never saw it. His disciples never saw Europe. The religion of Christianity was spread to Europe by the apostles who came long after the disciples. Not only that, it took 400 years after the death of Jesus Christ for Christianity to be consolidated in Europe. 400 years after his death. If you would look properly, you would see the first church in the world was in Africa. The first monastery in the world was in Africa. The very intellectual development of the church was a result of Africans. St. Augustine ain't nothing but an African. Consequently, when we say Jesus Christ is not white, we mean exactly that. He could be just about any color, but the one color he definitely could not be is white. As a matter of fact, if you will do the slightest research, this white Jesus that you see they have hanging everywhere is nothing but the uncle of the artist who painted the picture.
What's all this Bethlehem and all that business?
Yes, but that's not Europe.
Caesar Borgia.
That's not Europe. That's right, Palestine and Africa.
Look him up.
It's not. Jesus Christ never went to Europe. He never saw it. If he did, of course, there is some question as to whether or not he died on the cross. After his death, some people say he didn't die, and after his death, he might have gone, but he certainly never went to Europe while he was preaching. He never saw it, neither did his disciples. And he spent 10 years, and even in the Bible says that he had hair like the wool of a lamb. That's what the Bible says. He could not be white. It's impossible. And Christianity did not grow up. Christianity is not authentic to Europe. It's not. It entered Europe from the outside. As a matter of fact, one of the bloodiest histories that mankind has ever seen was to consolidate Christianity inside of Europe. Here's where you had the gladiators, men fighting lions, and everything possible to crush it.
Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night?
Yes, I'd like to know if you've ever had an opportunity while you were in Africa to trace your own roots, and if you would give us some information on it if you have.
I'm terribly sorry. I've not had this opportunity. Of course, for me, what is important is that I work and serve my people. I know that I'm African, and whichever part of Africa I come from at this point is not so important to me, maybe for others, but not for me. What is important is that I be of service here. I've not had time to trace my roots, and probably with the work that I have cut out for me, depending upon my lifespan, I don't think I will have this time to do this.
Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night?
Yes, I just want to congratulate Dr. Turi on the work that he's doing. I'm an African student here in Washington, D.C. I've been trying to talk to Black Americans about Africa, but none actually wants to give me an ear or seem in any way interested in what I'm saying. So I'm so pleased when I heard about you and the work you're doing. Please carry on the good work. By the way, my name is Sherry Kissob. I attend George Washington University in Washington, D.C.
Thank you, but I must tell you, I cannot do the work alone. Therefore, you must not stop. You must keep on doing the work. The Bible says you must know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. They killed Jesus Christ for advocating the truth. Don't you stop. You tell them that they're Africans, and Africa is their home.
Thank you. It escaped your mind. It also escaped my mind, and we would thank the folks in the control room for reminding me. The second part, and I wrote down Jesus, but I didn't write down Eldridge Cleaver. It was a two-part question,
yes.
right? Thank you.
I'm so sorry. You know, Christianity, all religions, of course, all religions come to make men and women live better lives. That's what they come for. That's their task, their responsibility. If Eldridge Cleaver is a Christian, then to me, one cannot be a Christian and not fight injustice. Jesus Christ went into a well, violated the Sabbath day to take a lamb out of the well. I cannot see how Christians can see injustice and not fight it. If Eldridge Cleaver is a Christian, then he must indeed be fighting against injustice. Not only that, if he knows anything about Christianity, the very beginnings of Christianity was communal. It was communalism. If you will read the Apostles' Acts in John, you will see here they tell the people when they join the church to sell all your goods and come and live with everybody in a communal manner. To have, and if you see all their food, even the story of Jesus Christ being able to feed the multitudes with fish and 5 loaves of bread. This is nothing but communism, bringing all of them together and among themselves what they have, equally sharing it. So consequently, even the very beginnings of the church is based in communism. When he says that he uses Christianity against communism, he has neither a comprehension of Christianity nor of communism.
I think the gentleman's phrase was, do you think he sold out?
Well, now that's a value judgment. That's not for me to say. But what I can say is that if he's not fighting against injustice, he is really against his people.
Do you live in a kind of a communal situation yourself now?
Well, you know, in the People's Revolutionary Republic of Guinea, it's a socialist system there.
Yeah. But within your own smaller arena of living.
Oh, we have no choice. We must make it communal. Necessity imposes that upon us.
The whole state? The country?
Well, just about, yeah. You know, it's a poor country. When I say poor, you know, Guinea is very rich. It's the richest country in West Africa, but poor because of its colonial background, its colonialism, and poor by its choice in terms of its organization before it begins economic development.
My question is, are you living on the same level as everybody else? Or are you, because of who you are, living on a higher level?
No, I wouldn't want to do that at all.
Oh, okay. Did you always live that way?
When I worked for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee in this country, in America, I was a graduate from Howard University, a university graduate, and I made $9.98 a week sometimes.
Big pay, huh? Hi there, you're on. Sometimes. Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night.
Yeah, my name is James Glover from Toledo, Ohio, and I would like to ask Tim, do he think blacks in America will ever have equal rights here in this country?
Yes, we will have it in this country, but of course, before we do that, Africa must be the strong power that she is so that we'll be respected. But there's no question we will have equal rights in every country. There will be equal rights in every country all over the world for all people. There's no question of this.
There will be.
You seem so sure.
I'm positive.
Okay. Do you see any kind of a scenario or any kind of a timetable?
Well, no. I can't give you a timetable. That I cannot do.
Well, let's say in your lifetime?
No, probably not in my lifetime. We will not see it. But I've seen a lot in my lifetime now.
Yes.
I didn't think, for example, in my lifetime that I would see Zimbabwe independent. And as early as 1962, we were doing sit-ins in Washington, D.C. at the then Rhodesian embassy. And I didn't think at that time that I would see it independent. It's independent today. I've seen great strides made by the Palestinians in their struggle against Zionism, which I didn't think that I would see in my lifetime. So I'm seeing quite a bit. Yeah. I'm seeing in Central America the peasants in El Salvador and Nicaragua stand up for their rights. And I didn't think I would see this in my lifetime. So I'm seeing quite a lot in my lifetime.
You know, I think all this business of television and satellites and new kinds of communication, that helps move the pace along, don't you think?
Well, no, it's just that it can help spread the word in communications, but the people do not depend upon television for their struggle.
Just off history.
I think it brings the world closer together.
Yes, it does. It is the development of technology. Yes.
Now, one of the things you seem to indicate in your literature is that folks in America have a tremendous misconception of Africa. I know that we just don't know very much about it. Who did we have on recently? Randall Robinson of Trans-Africa, talking about the fact that we just don't know much about Africa. How are we going to educate people to know more about it?
Well, it's a question of political education. Our party involves itself in this task, the task of politically educating our people in the first instance, of course all people, but our people about Africa, for example. We do this through seminars, through written materials, through the vocal means, and we have every year African Liberation Day. This year we'll hold it on May 27th and May 28th in Washington, D.C., where we invite people to come to be responsible to Africa.
Okay, now here's the question. This goes back a little while in our conversation. If Stokely Carmichael is going to be at Wayne State University talking about the movement, okay, and it's billed that way, or Kwame Ture is going to be there talking about Africa, who's going to sell more tickets?
Well, I don't know, but you know, this struggle is not a question of quantity, it's really quality. If 10 people come and they're really serious, then better to have that 10 than the 1,000 who come, clap, get excited, and go home and do nothing.
Good point. So in your conversations, you would rather spend, in your speeches, you would rather spend more time talking about Africa?
We talk about the need, yes, we have to understand this. This is not, it is underplayed everywhere. Consequently, this is our task, to push it very hard, because unless the people have an understanding of who they are, they won't know what their interests are.
If you get young people who, or let me open up the question, make it a little looser. At what age group of people do you find them very interested and very fascinated to know more about Africa, and what age group of people just seem to not care at all?
Well, our party, you know, our strategy is to take the intelligentsia, because we need this intelligentsia to be able to do political education work. Now, let me tell you, the intelligentsia is petit bourgeois, and they're very disgusting as a class. They have very little respect. They have contempt for the mass of the people. But this is the segment which we work with, because this is a segment we need. So college students, we find that once we get one of them who is serious, or one of the intelligentsia who is really serious about their commitment to the people, they can grow rapidly. It would be difficult, actually, for me to say exactly which age of people, because old people, for example, many of them have been touched by the Honorable Marcus Garvey movement, and some of them are old, so it's not difficult. And young ones, too, since they're not too well formed, it's kind of hard, actually, for me to say what age group.
Okay, fair enough. Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night.
Hi, Stokely or Dr. Tume. The U.S. Affirmative Action Hiring Program has not been terrifically successful in that the perhaps minority situation we've uncovered some people who have let's say not met the particular goals that they had set themselves out for. They have not
it was never meant for the minority.
Let me ask you this.
They have not satisfied their
which was
specified.
this.
Specifically, what is the
assembled.
question about affirmative action, though?
Do you feel that affirmative action is satisfying the goals of black achievement and black supremacy, perhaps?
Well, I'm not sure I agree with the word supremacy now. That one I would have to take out, but certainly there must be affirmative action. You know, the test of intelligence in the country is a cultural test. That's all it is. I attended the Bronx High School of Science, and at that school I took Latin for 4 years. I wrote Latin, I read Latin, and spoke Latin fluently in my 4 years of studying it. When we were given these IQ tests, you know, a lot of these IQ tests were vocabulary tests. I seemed like a genius simply because I took Latin, and if you take Latin, most of your vocabulary of English comes from Latin. So it's really a cultural test. That's all it is. Those students, even students who did better than me in class, who took French or Spanish, would never score as high as I did on the vocabulary portion. I'd come out as a genius, and they would look stupid. Obviously, Africans in this country do not participate in the major culture of this country, which is European culture. It's as simple as that. And because they're alienated from it, they're asked to be judged by it. Here's where the difficulty really arises. If one is really serious, then one must have, of course, affirmative action. There's no question here. We won't even talk about their being in slavery.
Hi there, you're on PBS Late Night.
Yes, I would like to say uhuru to the brother, and I would like to know if he believes that socialism is the answer to the problems for black people in this country. I'm calling from St. Pete, Florida.
Socialism is going to come to Latin America.
Ray, thank you, Ray.
It's only going to
Not
come
only
when the
is it the
systems
solution to
become.
Africans in this country, it's a solution to people all over the world, and it's inevitable. There's no question here. Wherever American imperialism has
But it
gone
is
to fight against socialism, it's been defeated. In Korea, in Vietnam, in Cuba, in Angola, in Nicaragua, wherever it goes. France just voted for socialism. Greece just voted for socialism. In Italy, the Socialist Party is getting very strong. So consequently, there's no question it's on the rise everywhere. Little island Grenada is going away from capitalism towards socialism. So there's no question here. It is spreading the world. It's the only system, it's the only economic system which is just and consequently will sweep the world.
Confusion in people's minds between socialism and communism?
Socialism is the first step towards communism. After socialism, one moves right into communism.
I'm saying, do you think there is a confusion in people's minds of the difference between socialism and communism?
In this country, there's a confusion about both of them because in this country, people know nothing about socialism or communism. As a matter of fact, all they know is they're supposed to be against it. That's all.
When you say that socialism is on the moving toward communism, how can you keep one as being good and positive, socialism, and communism as being bad? I mean, how can you...
Well, it's not. It's not. It's just the way that it's interpreted here. People are told that communism is bad. They don't know what it is.
You don't think it's bad?
No, of course not.
You don't think so?
The principle of communism, the overriding principle of communism, is that each individual in the society must contribute to the society according to their ability, to the level of their ability, and take from the society that which they need to continue to contribute. No man could be against this.
Are we talking about the kind of communism that we see in Russia and Poland and East Germany, or is that where we're going wrong?
That's where the error arises.
Okay. Yeah.
When we judge a system or a philosophy, we don't judge it by the adherence to it. For example, if I were to judge Christianity by those who call themselves Christians, you'd agree with me, we ought to get rid of it. So, we don't judge Christianity by those who call themselves Christians. We don't judge Islam by those who call themselves Muslims.
But we don't have much of a judge other than,
no.
When we're talking about communism, of looking at some of these countries I just meant and making a judgment about it.
But look, America is a Christian country.
Yes.
As a slave, you understand, which Christianity was hand in hand with slavery, Christianity was hand in hand in colonialism, then I'd say, well, America's a Christian country, you know, and I'd condemn Christianity. No. So when we look at socialism and communism, just as we examine Christianity, just like we examine Islam, we must look at the theory, see whether or not the theory is pure and worthy of the imitation of men and women. Once this is accepted, there's no problem here. For people to tell me that they're against socialism because all the socialist countries they see have problems and there's no socialism, well, I can say the same thing about Christianity. All the Christian countries and Christians that I see are not worthy of the imitation of men and women.
You are going to send us back to our textbooks to learn about Africa, Christianity, socialism, and communism, and you've done all of that in about 35 minutes.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
the more you know, the better able you are to serve humanity.
Ain't nothing wrong with that at all.
And not only that, before we go, I must tell everyone, if they really care about their people, they must join an organization working for the benefit of the people.